I call this next poem a cowboy fairy tale. She was the rancher's daughter, his eternal pride and joy, but everyone that knew her said she should have been a boy. She was kind of purty in a simple kind of way, but we never seen her in a dress. She wore boots and jeans every day. She always helped with the branding, got right down in the dirt, and it didn't seem to bother her none if some green stuff got on her shirt. Her name was Mary Ellen. She'd just turned 17. She had a way with horses like no one I'd ever seen. She rode better than most of the cowboys. You'd call her a tomboy, I suppose. I doubt if anyone even wondered what she looked like in heels and hose. Now, Hank was a bronc buster from Texas. Tall, good-looking lad who'd hired on with us to break a bunch of geldings that the boss had bought from some fellow way up north. There's 4 and 5-year-olds. Never seen a halter till the day that they were sold. Now in this bunch was a chestnut horse. He was snorty, and we all agreed that when he was castrated they must have left one seed, 'cause his jaw was big and his neck was thick, and he acted proud and showed signs of being an outlaw that never could be rode. Well, every morning at the round corral, Hank would top out one or two, and Mary Ellen would sit on the top rail, and as women are inclined to do, she'd offer all kinds of advice. But it kind of hurt his pride. He didn't need no snot-nosed girl tell him how to ride. But she still came to watch him. She'd applaud if one got rode, but she also kind of snickered and laughed if he happened to get throwed. The day it was the outlaw's turn, we knew it'd be a battle, so we all helped ear him down while Hank slipped on the saddle. But when he pulled that cinch up tight, that bronc throwed a squalling fit. But Hank was feeling cocky, and he said, "I'll ride him till he'll quit." But it didn't take very long to tell that his plan had gone awry, 'cause in about 3 seconds, Hank was sitting in the sky. He turned over twice, then hit the ground. His head was stuck in the dirt. We all thought it should have killed him dead, but only his pride was hurt. Of course, Mary Ellen had a comment, and I'll admit her remark wasn't kind. She told him he ought to check and see if the birds had built a nest in his behind. He had about all that he could take from this feminine fence-setter. His anger showed when he said, "I'd like to see you do better." She answered his challenge with a smile. She was anxious to have her skills known, and we tried to stop her when she crawled in the pen, but her daddy said, "Leave her alone." She walked out in that round corral, spoke softly, held out her hand. Bronc pinned his ears and opened his mouth in charge, but she made her stand. He stopped just short of hitting her. He sniffed and then snorted and whirled, and shaking his head he pranced off, acting proud, trying to ignore the girl. But curiosity soon got the best of him, and he charged at her like before. He'd stop and sniff, and snort and whirl, and prance off once more to ignore. Each time he came, she spoke softly, held out a hand he could touch, and each time he sniffs a bit longer and he doesn't snort quite as much. 10 times they repeated the procedure. 10 times we expected a wreck. But then he stood still long enough for her to pat him on the neck. She just kept talking quietly, calming his fears if she could, and the bronc just stood there and listened as if he understood. Then she eased up into the saddle. Boy, we figured he'd break in two, but he just trotted off like you'd expect an old broke horse to do. Now Hank's macho pride was wounded. Bucking off had been bad enough, but then to be showed up by a girl, he sure took lots of guff. But he decided to take a couple of days off and let his aching muscles heal. The rodeo dance was Saturday night, and he didn't want to miss that deal. He allowed that he'd go in town and give the girls a whirl, 'cause the next best thing to riding broncs is dancing with a girl. The hall was crowded when he got there, and the light was kind of dim, but he saw this gal by the punch bowl that sure looked good to him. She had her back to him, but he couldn't help like what he saw. Long shining hair, cute little behind, femininity without a flaw. He tapped her on the shoulder and asked her to dance. Would she? No way of telling. But she turned around and said, "Thank you, sir." My God, it was Mary Ellen. Hank was in a state of shock. He couldn't have been more surprised if you'd have taken a ball-peen hammer and hit him right between the eyes. Her freckles were covered with makeup, her hair no longer in a braid, and the pretty dress she was wearing showed off how well she was made. The band was playing Faded Love, and across the floor they did glide. She said, "Cowboy, I'll tell you something for sure, you dance a lot better than you ride." They spent the whole evening together, danced to every song. She apologized for making fun of him, and he told her he was wrong. Now, there's no need to continue this story of what happened after that night. I'm sure you can write your own ending if you believe in love at first sight. This story could go on, but I'm just going to say that they lived happily ever after. Fairy tales should end that way.